To each one of you. I hope you have understood, gone home and read yesterday's lessons and understood everything without difficulty. Okay. Now, today we are going to the next unit. We have done theories of international trade yesterday and also the advantages and disadvantages of free trade. Today, we are going to instruments of trade policy. This should be a new area for you because I don't think you have done this in your economic studies previously. So this is an altogether new area. And this consists of all the different instruments that countries are using for trade. Let me repeat what free trade is. Yesterday we have done free trade. We know when there is free trade, actually the country or the government does not restrict what its citizens buy from other countries or what they sell to other countries. Whatever the citizens want to buy from other countries, they can buy, and whatever they want to sell to other countries, they can sell. It is just like domestic trade. Or there is free interaction. Government does not intervene. I hope you the word intervene. Government does not intervene. Government does not make rules and regulations restricting the trade or encouraging the trade. Then what is freely playing? It is market. If the prices and quality of other commodities in other countries are good, people will trade. People will buy from other countries. So leaving to market is free trade, of course, with the necessary regulations as to how trade should be conducted, because even in domestic trade we have regulations. And we have seen yesterday the theory of comparative advantage, the theory of absolute advantage, that there are advantages of free trade. The global output will be higher. And you know, when you can specialize, and whenever there is specialization, the output will be more, and by trade, each country's citizens will be able to enjoy more goods and more services at lower price probably, right? And these are the advantages we know, but each and every day if you open the newspaper, even today if you open Economic Times, there are issues of trade wars that you see, trade war, okay. You open the newspaper, you get a hint that fair competition is absent. That is, somehow or the other, there are imperfections. And domestic firms are unhappy because foreign goods are coming. They are unhappy because we are not giving market access to them. We are unhappy because they are not giving market access to our goods. So, lot of issues with respect to free trade. Countries are trying to restrict the access. They are trying to build barriers, not to allow the goods of other countries, even if they are cheap. So, the economic rationale is buy from a place where it is cheaply available. Even if it is cheaply available in another country, most of the countries are erecting barriers. That means countries prefer its citizens to buy high-priced domestic goods and not buy low-priced goods from other countries. Okay, this is interference with trade, right? Interference in the market. And that is what we are going to study now today. That is how governments interfere with the free play of market in the international trade. This is a very interesting lesson. And from the examination point of view also, almost each sentence can be a question. Okay. Right, so we'll have a little bit of exam orientation as well. So it includes, large number of concepts, large number of points are stuffed into this. Actually, it is such a very broad area. We could only mention these. Actually, each point is worth, studying deeply, and each point is being researched. And so we will look into it. So that is why scope for large number of questions from this chapter. Okay. So what you'll ask me, as chartered accountants, why should we study about these market mechanism and the forms of interference with trade? Because one has to understand, especially if you work in the industry or even if you practice, if you're in the profession, one has to understand the implications of foreign trade, the implications of export and import. Okay, because the world is a global village. The world is getting more and more integrated. The boundaries are receding. The boundaries are no more physical. Physical boundaries, of course, is there. But, in practice, the boundaries are receding. And so, whenever trade takes place, every knowledgeable person should know what are the implications of this. Then again, sometimes you know about externality. Okay, chartered accountants contribute quite a lot to budget. Chartered accountants contribute quite a lot to policy making, right? So, sometimes, understanding this will also help you form opinions about, how to frame policy responses. How to frame policy responses. Now, you know that India has banned so much of import of so much of Chinese goods. Okay? We have this Atmanirbhar policy, isn't it? Under that, Make in India policy. So we are trying to be, independent. But when you read, opinion of different people, say for example, the former governor Raghuram Rajan, he said, Atmanirbhar should not end up in a high-cost industry. Okay, it should not end up as a disaster. So there are differences of opinion, isn't it? So sometimes we feel Make in India is good, but some people have the opinion that Make in India is not cost effective. We should trade rather than Make in India, okay? And so when such opinions come, actually we should, holding important positions, you will be able to frame opinions and policy responses, okay? Free trade, once more, let us go to the technical meaning of free trade. The technical meaning is free trade means trade between countries and among countries without tariff, without quotas, without restrictions. Okay, I said certain terms which we are not used to so far. Without tariffs, without quotas, without restrictions, or even if you are using tariff, okay, it is only for earning revenue, something like tax for the government. Okay, and so that is free trade. Free trade is there is no restriction. If at all there is some tax that you charge for the inbound goods, that is for the incoming goods, it is only for revenue purposes. Just like we are taxed domestically, you tax the goods that are coming from outside only for obtaining revenue. That is a beautiful proposition theoretically. But that doesn't really happen. And what is really happening? Protectionism. I think with yesterday's lesson, we know something about, what is the meaning of protection. Protecting whom? That is, protecting the domestic industries. The domestic producers are protected against foreign competition. Okay, protected against foreign competition. When foreign goods, yesterday you remember we are drawing that. That is, when foreign goods come to our country, what happens is, sometimes they have lower cost of production, sometimes quality is better, sometimes the technological advances for these products is better, and the domestic manufacturers, they find it difficult to sell. And finally, they will not be able to survive. So such a system should not come, because if domestic industries are not developing, domestic employment, domestic output, use of domestic resources, all these will not take place. And so governments try to protect the domestic industries from external competition, and government uses certain instruments, certain policies to protect, and these policies are known as trade policy instruments. And trade policy instruments have also that is forms of interference with trade, with the trade policy instruments. It may be for restricting imports. For this reason, it may be encouraging exports. So generally, instruments of trade policies are forms of interference with trade, either to restrict the imports or to encourage the exports. So we have discussed two terms: free trade, protection, protectionism. The third term that we already know is trade liberalization. Trade liberalization. What is trade liberalization? Opening up markets. Opening up our markets for goods and services from other countries. That is bringing down the barriers. You can erect very strong barriers to entry. Strong barriers to entry. We can restrict the entry of foreign goods. But reduce these barriers. Please remember, these are not physical walls. They are policies. Restrictions. Right? So reduce this policy and allow the goods and services from every country to enter our country and compete with our domestic industry. And that is trade liberalization. And what is a trade barrier? These are some of the terms we have to understand before we go to the lesson. What is a trade barrier? A trade barrier is any restriction. It is any restriction that is imposed for, that restricts the free flow of trade. Free flow of trade. Free flow of goods and services from one country, from our country to other countries, and from other countries. That is a trade barrier, a barrier. It can be rules, it can be regulations, it can take many forms. It can take many forms. Sometimes it is highly visible. Sometimes it is open and blatant. Like, the trade war between United States and China. Very open, isn't it? Very open. US is telling us, we are not going to allow entry to India's goods. Because India, you are not allowing our goods to come, or you are charging tariff on our goods. So this is open and visible. Sometimes it is very, very secret. You will not understand that this is a barrier. So that is what I said. As knowledgeable people, you need to recognize, if this is so, this is a barrier. This is a barrier to entry, right? And so that takes us to the next point. From trade barrier, we go to the word trade policy. What is a trade policy? Of course, policies are framed by government of a country, isn't it? So trade policy is a government policy. Of course, that policy will reflect, just like I said, monetary policy will reflect the overall objective of the country. Fiscal policy will reflect the nation's overall objective. And trade policy or government policy also will reflect our macroeconomics. It is for regulating or controlling foreign trade. Regulating, that free trade is to be regulated. Sometimes it has to be controlled. Okay, regulating is bringing regulation. Sometimes it has to be controlled, and all the regulations and agreements that control. Regulations are written by our, legislative bodies, and agreements are between and among countries. Okay, all the regulations and agreements that control imports and exports, both imports and exports. That is restriction of import, increase, that is change in the quantity of exports and imports, and all the policy measures by which we interfere with the market, either for increasing export or for increasing import. Fine, no problem, you can also increase import, reducing export or increasing export. That is change the quantities traded. But usually, countries usually want to export more and import less. Right? Are you reminded of yesterday's first trade theory? Mercantilism, isn't it? Let us export more and not import that much from other countries. Okay, our trade balance should be good. That is what countries want usually. So these policies are clear, writing it clearly. That is our standards, our goals, explicitly and clearly stating this is what we plan to do. Why should we do that? Because we have trading partners. Nearly all countries are our trading partners, even though some countries are, having a greater participation in trade. But many countries are our trading partners. So these trading partners should be clear about what is our policy, what is our plan. So a trade policy is consisting of, when you learn this chapter, you cannot actually divert much from the textbook. Okay, because these are all, universally given definitions of terms. So there aren't much. You go to any international trade textbook, you will find the same terms and the same definition. So that's why you have to read the textbook. Okay. So all instruments that government use, when I say instruments, it's policy instruments to promote trade, to promote or restrict imports and exports. That is a trade policy. I repeat, trade policy consists of all policy instruments or all instruments that governments use to promote or restrict imports and exports. Promote or restrict imports and export. So there are 4 possible permutations for it. Promote export, promote import. Restrict export, restrict import. Okay, then that is one part of what is trade policy. The second part of the trade policy is, there are so many international agreements. You always see on the television, our Prime Minister going abroad and signing. Some other Prime Minister coming to our country and signing a trade agreement. Okay. And there are some policy stands or attitudes or approaches that we take in these negotiations. I said a new word, negotiation. Negotiation is a discussion, where you want to reach a common agreement. That is the next chapter we are going to learn. So we may take certain stand in these trade negotiations. You know about WTO. You have heard about WTO so well that it is a result of a negotiation. And we have gone and signed it and made so many agreements binding for us. Okay, it is binding for us because we have signed it. Our parliament has ratified it. And so the approach that our country and many countries, almost all countries have taken in such negotiations is also a part of trade policy. So what is a trade policy? Answered. Two parts for that. Okay, then you will ask me, what is the foreign trade policy of India? All export and import related activities in India are governed by FTP, that is foreign trade policy. Okay, and what is our explicit foreign trade policy? That is enhancing the country's export. Enhancing the country's export. And that is export oriented growth that you have learned yesterday, isn't it? Export oriented growth. Use trade expansion. Trade expansion means exports as an effective instrument of economic growth. That we don't want to produce for ourselves, we want to produce for the entire globe. Sell it. In that process, make growth possible in our country, economic growth. Once there is economic growth, there is employment, there is increase in output of goods and services, and there is welfare, okay? And there is employment generation, standards of living will be. This is our explicit policy of FTP, that is foreign trade. And and right from 1991, you know what happened? That is, we had the liberalization, LPG we call it, okay, new economic policy. Right from this liberalization time, we have a Directorate General of Foreign Trade, DGFT. Directorate General of Foreign Trade. Naturally, there will be a director also, okay. And this is attached to the Ministry of Commerce. And they promulgate or proclaim, you know, trade policy maybe for 5 years, sometimes shorter duration. And the latest trade policy came years back, that is for 5 years from 2015 to 2020. Now that the period of last trade policy is over, but we could not, frame a trade policy because of our COVID pandemic. And so our 15 to 20, 2015 to 2020, that policy is extended till March 20, that is March 21. Okay. And every year we get data about our previous export, import, etc. Okay. That is merchandise exports and services and import of merchandise and services. Please note, these come not in rupees, in terms of dollars. Right. But one thing that is very, very interesting is, this year, that is in 2021, we are in the 2021 financial year. Till July, that is we are now in October, we have figures only up to July. Our imports were less than our exports. That is, we have a trade surplus. Okay, trade surplus of around 14 billion. This is definitely because of COVID, because our imports, transport, air transport, shipping, everything is affected. We do not know whether it is because of shipping problem. Anyway, now we have a trade surplus surprisingly. Okay, now that is why another thing is that we have good amount of foreign exchange reserves now. Let us now go to the textbook. Okay, we can talk hours and hours if you want like this, but we have to go to exam orientation again. So our policies, okay, our interference with the trade, okay, it may take two forms. It will take. It can be broadly classified into two. One is price related. Now you are quite clear about these terms. Price related. Okay. So what is it? What is it that it is trying to influence? It is trying to influence the price at which the imports are sold. Price of imported commodities. That is the meaning of price related measure. Okay, you remember you have done this before. What is that? Okay, market based, price related. Okay, what should be the opposite? The opposite is non-price. Okay, non-price related. So here we are not trying to, trying to touch the price. We are taking some other measure. Here we are trying to manipulate the prices. Change the relative prices. I'll come to that later. Here, so generally, these are tariffs. You have heard about tariffs, or you will be doing some problems also using tariff. Okay. Now, these are, if that is tariff, this will be non-tariff measures. This will be tariff measures. These are non-tariff measures. NTM. Non-tariff measures. So tariff and non-tariff measures. So all these classification, please be clear. That is, we will study broadly classified into two. That is, what are we studying now? Trade policy. And our trade policy, all countries' trade policy is broadly classified. Please remember, this chapter is not specific to India. We are studying. It is applicable for the entire world. Okay. And so, tariff measures and non-tariff measures. Okay. These are the two. Okay. Now, I will first introduce what is meant by a tariff. A tariff is sometimes called a protective tariff. You should be used to this term. A protective tariff. Okay? You know the meaning of the word protection now. What is a protective tariff? A protective tariff is aimed at giving protection to the domestic industry. Okay, how can you give protection? For example, a domestic industry is making something and selling at rupees 100. If a similar quality foreign commodity comes at 80 rupees, what will people do? Come on. People would definitely prefer 80 rupees commodity. Similar commodity in all respects. You know the influx of Chinese commodities in India. Okay. And so, what happened is, in this competition, the Indian firm is not able to survive because people will not buy their products. Okay. And so, what will be the government policy now? We understand this is something that we don't want to tolerate. Okay. And so, what will you do? Artificially. This is natural demand and supply. Okay. Demand and supply forces have brought this foreign good for 80 rupees. But our country will artificially inflate. Say for example, put 25 rupees tariff. Okay, what is tariff? The moment this good crosses the border, okay, pay 25 rupees at the border, customs duty. And so, when the good comes in, what happens is, it is no more 80 rupees, it is 80 plus 25 rupees. The relative price of the good becomes more. It is 105. Now, this good which is 105 has to compete with our import competing industry. I will explain what import competing industry is. Right. So, we have protected our industry A, which is manufacturing, say for example, what is available for 100 rupees, which is manufacturing a particular cosmetic. Easily understood. Okay, a particular cosmetic. We have protected industry A. And this is also cosmetic. This B country is bringing cosmetic, the same cosmetic. Okay. So, A is an import competing industry. It is competing with the imports of from other countries. Same product. A is an import competing industry as far as cosmetics are concerned, because cosmetics are being produced in India also. It is an import competing industry. Okay. Now when I said tariff, you should be immediately remembering Trump, Donald Trump, okay, with due respect. Right, what did Donald Trump do 2018, some 2 years back? He put 25%, best example of protection, that's why I am mentioning this. 25% tariff, 25%, okay, which is very high. 25% on tariff on steel, okay, 25% tariff on steel, and 10% tariff on aluminium, right? What is the objective of doing this? Now, the imported steel to America has to pay on the border 25% tariff. Then, the imported steel will now become expensive because steel comes from different countries including India, isn't it? Steel comes from Mexico, steel comes from China, steel comes from European Union, right? All the steel become expensive. And so, what is the choice for the American steel industry? Buy domestic steel instead of imported steel. Buy domestic steel. Here, buy domestic aluminium and not imported aluminium. So, what do you call this measure? This is a measure to protect American steel and aluminium industry. Okay. So, it will protect, not only it will protect, it will boost US steel and aluminium industry. So, by doing this, actually it was a big highly criticized measure because of foundations of global trade. At one point, he even threatened that America will go out of WTO. That when we go to the lesson on WTO. And that is how a trade war came. China was also very powerful, isn't it? China is also very powerful nation. And so, what did China do? Counter tariffs. Okay. So it is very interesting. That is why, when you are studying. So let's see what is tariff. So far I've been talking about a tariff. Now we will study the theory of tariff. Okay, you have already understood what tariff is. It is a tax or a duty. Where is it imposed? Imposed on both goods and services. You have to be complete. You cannot write anything other than this. Okay. Because this is a definition. Imposed on goods and services which are imported or exported. It can be an export tariff also. Okay. When you export, you have to pay a tax. That is an export tariff. Usually, when we talk about import tariff. It is a financial charge. It is a tax imposed at the border. Okay, that's why I was keeping on writing it, imposed at the border. So what do we call it? Customs duty. Tariff is exactly the same as custom duty. And which type of goods? Not for domestically produced and consumed goods. All those goods and services which keep moving from one customs area or one customs territory to another customs territory. For example, this is a customs territory, Sri Lanka is another customs territory. Okay? When goods move from one country to another, so no domestic tax will be called customs. Okay? It is tariff. Clear? Usually, what is the purpose of a tax? Raise revenue. We have done it in Unit 2. Raise revenue to meet the expenses of the government. But the tariff is, usually a deliberate policy. But, it happens that tariff happens to be a deliberate policy to protect the domestic import competing industries. Now, I can use this term. Earlier, our cosmetic industry, okay? This is more often used to protect the domestic import competing. Then, how is it helping compete? Okay, the relative prices are artificially inflated. That is, the price of imports are artificially increased by charging a tax. Nobody will bear a tax. The consumer has to bear the tax. So, this is artificially inflating the price of imports. And this is most visible because the exporter of that particular cosmetic knows if I have to cross the Indian border, 25% has to be paid. That is why visible, universally used, the objective is to change the price of the imported commodity, to increase the price of the imported commodity. Okay, and when price is increased, how does it work? Other things remaining the same, the quality of this imported cosmetic and the quality of Indian cosmetic is the same. Otherwise, we won't be able to analyze. Okay, we assume that the quality is the same, other things are the same, and so people will definitely go for the lower priced domestic good and will not go for the higher priced imported good. And so, when people don't buy, what will happen? More orders will not go, right? That is, more and more orders will not be going, which means can restrict the volume of imports. If people are not buying, naturally the traders will not import, okay? And so contract the imports, that is the objective. Okay, we now go to tariff is price related measure. You know why tariff is a price related measure? Because the single most effect of a tariff is on prices, changing the prices, altering the prices, increasing the prices. There are two types of tariff. Generally, the classification is ad valorem. Ad valorem. You know what is ad valorem? According to value. Non-ad valorem. Okay, opposite. Non-ad valorem. So this is not based on the value of the good that is imported. This is not based on the value. So let us first go to non-ad valorem, because ad valorem takes many shapes. Okay, non-ad valorem is not based on price of the commodity. It comes as a specific tariff. What is a specific tariff? A specific tariff is not related to the value of the imported good. Whether it is 5,000, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, no. It is on a monetary tax. These definitions are, you cannot change the definitions. Monetary tax per physical unit. Physical unit. That is, you measure in terms, count in terms of numbers, measure in terms of weight, volume, liters, gallon. Okay, you measure in terms of volume like crude oil, or you measure in terms of length, for example, meters of cloth, right? And so you measure, and for the physical unit, okay, so kilogram, meter, liter, okay, barrel, like that. A tariff of example, maybe 1,200 rupees on a tariff of 1,200 rupees on cheese. On maybe a bundle of cheese which comes maybe 60 kilograms or 80 kilograms or 50 kilograms, okay, or a tariff of 1.22 per meter of cotton cloth imported. Okay, right, 1.22 per meter. So it is physical unit, specific tariff. To extend it to something that you would like more, okay, you know the big dog motorcycles which come from US. You know about the BMW motorcycles. You know about the Star motorcycle, that is Harley Davidson, that has come. Okay, suppose I checked, recently, big dog motorcycles are around 60 lakhs rupees in India. Only 60 lakhs. Okay? And so, one big dog motorbike coming to India, you charge, say, to make it the numbers very simple, you charge 10 lakh as tariff. Okay, the price is 50 lakhs. When it comes to India, crosses the border, 10 lakh tariff. So it makes 60 lakhs in India. Why do you put the tariff? Because that is going to come and compete with our bike industry. Okay, and so we don't want that. Only we really want to discourage the purchase of big dog or Harley Davidson bikes, right? And so what will happen is we have 10 lakh. Second unit comes 10 lakh. But so suppose the price of the bike increases suddenly, because of demand or because for some reason the price of the bike suddenly increases to 90 lakhs. Even then people will buy, okay, 90 lakhs. Even then we put 10 lakhs because it is per unit of the bike, okay. Even then we are putting the same 10 lakhs on the bike. And so what happens, even if the pricing, what is the disadvantage now? The protective value. The protective value. How far it is affording protection to the Indian bike industry. It is actually, the percentage has actually reduced, isn't it? Earlier 10 lakh on 60, now it is 10 lakh only on 90. So, inversely related to price. Higher the price, lower the protective value. Protective value is how far it enables protection of the Indian bike industry. When it is 90, 90 lakhs, it should be more than 10 lakhs, isn't it? It must be 50 or 50, progressively 20 lakhs, isn't it? But it doesn't go up, and so that is the disadvantage of it. And here there is nothing like customs valuation. What is customs valuation? On the border, okay, when goods come, here customs valuation takes place. What is the price of this? What is the price of this bike? Okay, it is being valued by valuers in the customs department. And here there is no valuation necessary. Whether it is 60 lakhs or 90 lakhs, we are charging the same tariff. Okay. Now, we go fast to ad valorem. Now that we have started tariff, you will easily understand. Ad valorem tariff is the opposite. What is that? You charge, that is a country levies or charges a constant percentage of the monetary value. So when the bike is 60 lakhs, you charge 20%. Okay, 12 lakhs. Right? 12 lakhs, 20%. When the bike is 100 lakhs, you charge the same 20%. Okay, then you get 20 lakhs. As the price goes up, the protective value also increases. Okay, one example of ad valorem duty is this. Another example is 12% on all cookies, not the computer cookies, eating cookies. Okay, 12% of all the cookies that we import. The advantage, compare, questions are coming, isn't it? What is a non-ad valorem tax? What is a specific tax? What is the disadvantage of a specific tax? Okay, how is tax levied under specific tax? Okay, and what is the nature of protective value? Right? What is the nature of customs valuation? But compare protective tariff with, compare specific tariff with an ad valorem tariff. See, 6 questions I said. That's why I said this is only 13 pages, but 1,300 questions can be asked from this chapter. Okay. So here the protective value is preserved. It is 20% each time based on the value. And so then what is wrong? Only one point. Actually, there are hundreds of disadvantages and advantages for this. But one major disadvantage is, undervalue. The invoice, you write a lower value. Now with all the gold smuggling and all, we understand you write a lower value on something in the invoices, the bill of lading, and transfer the rest of it, in black. This is an incentive when it is ad valorem tax. So there are many variations of ad valorem tax. We'll quickly move. That is mixed tariffs, compound duty. All tariffs are also known as duty. Mixed tariff, compound tariff. Let us go. In some books, mixed tariff is the same as compound tariff is what is written. But this is following the WTO convention. That is, what is the WTO classification? That is what is taken, and this is correct, because some books will mislead you saying that mixed tariff is the same as compounded tariff. But the WTO classification is like this. A mixed tariff is a tariff that combines both, that is a specific and an ad valorem component. It is either or. Okay? Either, that is, there will be an objective, for example, generate maximum revenue, generate maximum income for the country. Sometimes ad valorem tax will generate more income. Sometimes a specific duty will generate more income. Suppose the price is lower, an ad valorem tax will only bring lower revenue. Okay, then we'll go for specific duty. So either the ad valorem or a specific, depending on which is generating highest income. If more income is by specific, we'll go for specific. If more income is through ad valorem, we'll go for ad valorem. Example, okay, duty on cotton. I think that's example given in your book. Okay. Duty on cotton, 5% ad valorem or 3,000 per ton. If it is raw cotton, okay, because per ton, right? Otherwise it will be meters, right? Duty on cotton, 5% ad valorem or 3,000 per ton, whichever is higher, because our objective is to secure more duty from import of cotton, okay, whichever is higher. But sometimes whichever is lower, okay. Now some countries will want imports, okay, so they will want imports of certain essential commodities, okay, and then the choice will be, come on, ad valorem or specific, whichever is less. Ad valorem or specific, whichever is less, we will charge, because we want to encourage the import of this essential component, this essential raw material, this essential book, this essential research, okay, right, or this essential medicine, right? So whichever is less. Another example, fabrics, 15% ad valorem. That's example given in your book. 15% ad valorem or 87 per square meter, whichever is higher. Okay, that is mixed. Now we go to compound. Okay, compound is ad valorem duty. There is an ad valorem duty already there. Along with that is added or subtracted, because we are learning theory, okay. along with the ad valorem duty, either we add, please change it if you want in your book, along with the ad valorem duty, either we add or subtract a specific duty. That is, with ad valorem duty, which is already there. Already there is ad valorem because it's compound, okay. Two things together, we call it mixed or compound, right? Compound tariff or compound duty is ad valorem duty to which we add or subtract a specific duty. Okay. Example, 10% ad valorem part is 10% plus 200 rupees a kilogram on cheese. Okay. Okay. 10% plus 200 a kilogram on butter. Or 10%, 200 a kilogram on some eatable that's coming, or anything, or component. If it is subtraction, how is it? 10% ad valorem minus 200. Okay, then it becomes a compound tariff. So what is the definition? It includes, that is a single duty, it includes both ad valorem and a specific component. Both ad valorem and a specific component. In the previous one mix, either this or which brings more or less. 0.88 per liter on petroleum. I think that's example given in your book. 0.88 rupees per liter on petroleum products plus 25% ad valorem. Okay, 0. Per liter, that is a specific component. 25% is the ad valorem component. Now we can go a little faster. Then the second category is technical tariff, also known as other tariff. Technical tariff or other tariff. The technical tariff is calculated, technical, whenever the word technical is used, it is related to the product, the component of the product, the combination of the product, what is the nature of the product is what is we are, okay. Now, the specific contents of the product, okay, the specific contents of the product. Specific contents of the, that is, payment is on the content of the product. In your example, in your book, the example given is 3,000 on each solar panel plus 50 per kg on the battery. Okay, 3,000 on each solar panel when we are importing plus 50 per kg on the battery. So if the battery is 100 kilogram, 100 multiplied by 50. Is it clear? So it is based on the component. Okay, component. Then, lots of calculations need be there because it is determined by the complex nature, technical factors. Okay, complex technical factors. So for example, country B is very health conscious of people, about their people, okay. So country B does not want sugar content of goods that are imported in their country to be more than 30%, okay. They like the sugar content only less than 30%. So how will they discourage, okay, specific, all those commodities, all those biscuits and ice cream and all, which is above 30%, the country B wants to discourage, and so specific, the technical tariff, I'm sorry, technical tariff is not specific. I wrote it incorrect. Okay, they will write, they will say, if sugar content is above 30, 65% tariff. Okay, technical. Then alcohol content. Okay, some medicines like cough syrup, alcohol content. If the alcohol content, so If the alcohol content is more and we don't want to import it, then what will we do? We'll put, based on the specific technical content, technical tariff, not specific, I wrote it wrong, okay. Technical content, you will charge sugar content, alcohol content, and all the other multifarious contents, okay. That is technical, based on the technical composition of the product. If you go to industry, there will be thousands of examples, but we have no time, right? Then comes the next is, I'm following the same pattern in which in your book go, that is tariff rate quotas. Tariff rate quotas. Three things, always understand the word tariff rate quotas. So we understand there is something like a quota. You know what is a quota? A quota is, you are allowed to import only. Say for example, a country A says, you can import only 5,000 cars. Car. Okay, not rupees. Only 5,000 cars. That is a quota, a quantitative restriction. Import only 5,000 cars. Right? For 5,000 cars, up to 5,000 cars, 120% duty. The car duty on car is very high. 120% duty up to 5,000 cars. Okay. You want to import more? 7,000 cars, because domestic demand for imported car is more. You want to import 7,000 cars? No problem, you can import. Give 200% duty. Give 200% duty. Is it clear? That is tariff rate quotas. This is only an example, okay? Sometimes, some countries, okay? If it is not cars, it's something else, 0%. Sometimes it will be 0%. Sometimes it will be 10%, sometimes it will be 5%. Okay, can you do? But beyond the quota, the charge will. Okay, a low rate for initial increment. Okay, a low rate on an initial increment within the quota. If you are within the quota, it is low rate, and a very high tariff if you are going beyond. So, it is a combination of two things. Which are they? Come on. Look at the name. It is a combination of quota and tariff. Okay. A tariff, differential tariff. Different tariff applied for quota, within quota and above quota. Okay, I will repeat. Imports below a specified quantity enter at a low rate or even a 0 rate, and imports above that quantity, here 5,000, enter at a higher tariff. This is also called tariff quota, because both tariff and quota are there. The next one is very, very detailed, but for the time being, we'll just mention it. M of N. We'll go to WTO unit, you will study it in detail. Most favored nation tariff. Okay, most favored nation. Who is the most favored? In your family, who is the most favored person? Your family members, isn't it? Like that. So, we have a 164 country multilateral organization which is known as WTO. And all these 164 members, big and small, quarreling and friendly, all these 164 members are most favored as far as trade is concerned. Okay, they are most favored, right? And so, if I give, say for example, suppose this is A gives, a concession to B. Okay, let us import at 15%. Right? A gives a concession for B, okay, 15%. Then the same concession should be given all WTO members. And what is an MFN tariff? WTO members are all, by agreement, they have entered into agreement, and what these countries promise to impose on imports from other members. Okay, A will trade with B, B will trade, okay, A will trade with B, B will trade with C, and C will trade with A and B, right? Whenever trading take place between or among these members, okay, that is called most favored nation tariff. Here I have given 15, I have to give 15 for everybody. It is not that. There's only one example. I said what is meant by most favored, because everyone is most favored, all should be treated equally. But there is an exception. After this exception, I will give you a break. What is the exception? You find that country K has entered into a free trade agreement with many other countries here also. K has entered into a free trade agreement with X, Y, Z, M, N. Okay, there is a free trade agreement. We will be coming to free trade agreement in the next unit. Then, this MFN will not hold. They have some free trade agreement. So, then their agreement will stand not in the WTO. This is an exception. Unless the country is part, what that's given in your book, unless the country is part of a preferential trade agreement, a free trade area, preferential, we are going to come. You can take a break now if it is, one second. You can take a break now, it is 7:01. You can come at a little 7:05. Thank you. Take a break. Relax. After 5 minutes, 4.5 minutes, please come back. Thank you. 1 minute over. Okay, we are back now. We go to the next. We go slightly fast, otherwise we might find it because a lot of points are there. Okay, so MFN principle is every country gets the lowest tariff that any country gets. I'll repeat, every country should get the lowest tariff that any country is getting. Say for example, I give a very low tariff to B, then all the other 164 countries should be given this lowest tariff. But there is one exception, I said. If you are a free trade member, of course that you are allowed. Okay, you are allowed to give them free because you are a member of the free trade. This is an exception. Usually questions can be asked. Okay. Now, yeah, reduction in tariff to one country allowed for all the other countries. That is the MFN principle. Then what is MFN? The highest rate that a WTO member charge on each other. That is actually the definition. The highest or the most restrictive. Highest means, goods will not come. I mean, restrictions are more. Highest and the most restrictive that WTO members charge each other. It is charged on a contract or an agreement, and that is MFN. Okay. Now we go to the next principle of variable tariff. Variable means that which can change for some reason, vary for some reason or the other. That is, you take the tariff or decide the tariff in such a way the price of imports is equal to the minimum support price. Price of import is equal to the minimum support price. Say for example, if wheat has a minimum support price of 30 rupees, wheat has a minimum support price in India of 30 rupees. Suppose imports of American wheat, very highly productive, America sells wheat at 25 rupees. What will happen to the Indian wheat? Come on, all of us will run and buy American wheat, isn't it? And so, put the tariff of 5 rupees and make it equal to the minimum support price. Because at minimum support price, an Indian farmer can sell wheat, that is at 30 rupees. Now the American wheat will not compete with Indian wheat, and create problem because both are equally priced. Okay. Typically, actually there is no watertight compartment like this. Theoretically we will say this, practically but it will be something else that you do. Okay. Up to the level of domestic support price. Then preferential tariff. Okay. Right. MFN tariff we already know. Suppose ABC have a preferential trade agreement. Just like friends, when friends go together for a cup of coffee, there is preferential, it is, you don't give to the person who is sitting on the next table, isn't it? Maybe you will pay for your friends, but not for your neighboring table who you do not know, right? It is like that. Suppose there is a preferential trade agreement, okay, between A and C. And suppose MFN, we have already done, MFN is 30%, most favored nation tariff on iron and steel products, okay, on refrigerators is 30%, okay, and definitely A and B and C will trade because they are all preferred trade partners, okay, they have formed a preferential trade agreement. When they trade, even though they are members of WTO, they may trade for 20%. Well and good. Okay. 20%, which is lower than the MFN. But D is not their partner. Okay. E is not their preferential trade partner. So when they trade with the D and E, they will charge 30%. And to the preferential people A, B, C, they will charge only 20%. And that is lower tariff than MFN. So this is reciprocal. A says I will charge only this much. B says I will charge only from A. C says I will charge only 20 to A also. Reciprocal. That is, each other, they will charge a lower tariff than the MFN rate because they have signed another trade agreement, which is a preferential trade agreement. Example, European Union. Okay, zero tariff in between, right? European Union. Then there is a concept of unilateral preferential treatment, GSP. That's what I said, lots of terms come. This is one question, isn't it? Actually, preferential tariff, 3 questions can be asked, isn't it? So, you read it thoroughly, you will understand. It's not very difficult. Unilateral preferential, okay, or unilateral. What is the meaning of unilateral? It is not a contract, okay? It is not a contract at all. Suppose there are 2 countries, A and B is a poor country and A is a big shot, okay? A big shot, right? What will happen? B's country has to develop. So, A will give unilaterally some preference for these goods to enter into A, say at 10% duty. Some goods at 10% duty, some goods at 3% duty, at a lower duty. That is unilateral preferential treatment. Preference is given to country B, country A. It's not a contract, unilaterally for some reason. It can be for this is an underdeveloped country, it can be due to some other country, or it can be due to B is an ally, or B is a political participant, or it may be that by pleasing B, A has some other things to do, right? Okay. So, for some reason, unilateral preferential treatment. We in India are very much used to it because America, United States used to give us unilateral preferential treatment, and that is known as Generalized System of Preferences, GSP. Generalized System of Preferences. That is, nearly 3,000 goods from India would find as an export, or in US will import these goods from India. Okay, and what did that is, so it was very good for India because India could easily get market access to US on more than 3,000 goods. And what happened when Trump came? When Trump came, what happened is, you know how tensions come, okay? When Trump came, Trump said, okay, America said to India, no more unilateral, okay, no more GSP. We have to think about it, okay? So all GSP cut, right? We were actually negotiating. India is also not a bad country, isn't it? America has a lot of dependence on India, and India is still negotiating, okay? You know what did Trump say? You are making our apples. Say for example, apples from Washington, India is charging 70%. Harley Davidson bike, India is charging 200%. Cut this. Let our goods come to your country. Then we will think of the generalized system. Negotiation is still going on, right? Because if America wants our goods, American manufacturing industry want our goods because they are cheap. Okay, let's wait and see, right? And the next one is bound tariff. You bind. What is binding book? That is, for example, binding is you are saying that you will do only this. Okay, you are binding yourself. Okay, tariff binding, bound rate. You can write it down in your book. Bound tariff is also called as tariff bounding, or I am bounding myself. For example, a WTO member binds himself. A is a WTO member and he is binding, I will charge only 15% duty on your imports of coal or steel or aluminium or sulfuric acid or hot rolled iron, anything. Okay, I will charge only 15%. I tell B, both MBR WTO member. Okay, so it is a commitment not to raise tariffs above 15%. A has committed not to increase the tariff above 50%. Right? If at all I want to increase from 15 to 17%, then I will have discussion with you, B. Okay, I will negotiate and any loss, okay, that B incurs because goods are now high tariff, okay, any loss should be compensated, okay, any loss should be compensated. How will you compensate a loss? Allow some other good to come into this country. Okay, reciprocal sum arrangement, foreign trade is so complex. Okay, and so when you are increasing the bound tariff is 15%, you want to increase it to 17%, you can increase it provided you have come to an understanding with B, and B should be compensated for the loss. What is the loss? These goods cannot now enter because as it used to enter before at 15%, now it is 17%. You know, yes, market is difficult to enter because the duty is now high. Then B will say, I will be losing 100,000 crores because of this, you compensate. How will this country compensate? Allowing some other good to come to market access by A. You know, it takes place like that. Complex procedures, right? And so that is bound tariff. So what is the meaning of bound tariff? You bind the tariff at a particular level. You can't go beyond. If you go beyond, you know, you have to negotiate and then compensate for the loss. Is it clear? And so it is transparent. What is the transparency and predictability? It is written in your book. I think if it is not written, please write. There is a lot of transparency. I know that if I produce, I can sell in country A at 15% tariff. When my goods reach country A, I am sure it is only 15% tariff. Predictable. So I will produce 100 tons because I can sell in country A at 15%. It is predictable. It is transparent because country A has committed that bound itself that it will charge only 15%. I hope it is clear for you. And so binding has taken place for 15%. Okay, that is a bound tariff. A says, okay, I will charge only 15%. But A can be magnanimous, isn't it? A can charge only 12%. When the goods come to A, it can charge only 12%. And this is applied tariff. What is actually applied? Bound is my commitment. Applied is what I actually charge. So applied tariff can be less than bound but cannot be more than bound. If it is more than bound, come on, I have already made the commitment, I can't go beyond that. Okay, then we have to negotiate with this country and compensate. So applied tariff can always be less. Now tell me, if you go to this, you can learn another one day, right? When will applied tariff be lower? When country A really needs goods from country B. Okay, when country A really needs the goods from country B, it is only business, no charity, right? It will not charge 15%, it will charge only 12% so that country B exports to country A, and country B does not go for searching some other country. They are valuable raw material, it can be, or a valuable finished good, it can be. So applied tariff can be, come on, lower than bound tariff. Now we go to a very interesting tariff. It's called escalated tariff structure. Escalated tariff structure. I will show you an example and then it will be clear for you. For example, you are exporting, I'll take the same example given in your book. You are exporting iron ore, okay, you are an underdeveloped country, okay, you are an underdeveloped country, okay with me. You are an underdeveloped country, you export iron ore to country A, suppose it is US, for iron ore 3%, okay. You process the iron ore and make it, bar, irons of bar or iron ingots or iron, sheet iron, then it is 8%. You convert it to, mild steel and export it, then 12%. You convert it to finished steel, okay, full, very toughened steel, then 16%. You convert and sell finished steel products, okay, finished steel products, then 25%. I hope it is clear for you. Right? Okay. Imports of manufactured goods, finished goods, the nominal tariff rate, that's just the number, okay. The nominal tariff rate, usually it is nominal tariff rate because there is a real tariff rate also. You don't have to study that. The nominal tariff rate on imports of manufactured goods is higher than the nominal tariff rate on intermediate goods and raw materials. Is it clear? Raw material, semi-finished goods, lower and lower. So as a commodity, in the value chain, okay, rises in the value chain, then tariff also increases. Okay, the tendency of the tariff to be higher on processed goods than on the raw material or intermediate good. Or in other words, the tariff on the product increases as it moves the value chain. Value chain, its value increases, isn't it? As we manufacture. Manufacturing is value addition, isn't it? And this is very strange, isn't it? Why do they do this? What is the secret behind it? I think I am teaching you crookedness, isn't it? So once you finish learning this, you will also become a little bit crooked. You know why? If you buy iron ore here, this is giving protection, giving encouragement to the manufacturing industry of A. Okay. They will buy raw material and the manufacturing industry in A will prosper. And what about the manufacturing industry? Poor country, come on. Poor country finds it very easy to access with iron ore. Very easy to access with a very low processed good. So we have no alternative, right? If we have to sell our finished steel, A will charge 25%. It's a big barrier. We cannot enter. Okay. So what will we do? We will sell, come on, raw material, unprocessed goods. And these people will manufacture it. And the manufacturer's profit will go to A. And poor country will remain poor itself. This is very prominently present. Okay. So it is protecting the manufacturing industries in country A and it is discouraging manufacturing, attempt of development of manufacturing industries of exporting countries. So we will remain poor, okay, still poor, and these people will become richer and richer because their manufacturing industries prosper by buying our raw material and semi-finished goods. That's why this is highly escalated tariff structure is highly discriminatory. It does not allow manufacturing industries of underdeveloped countries to develop. Okay, you see the secret? Right. And so that's what I said as chartered accountants. You ought to know all these, all these tricks are taken. Now that you read the newspaper, the strikes. Is it an escalated tariff? Right. Now in the bargain, okay, this should not be encouraged, isn't it? And the next one is a prohibitive tariff. So can you guess what will be a prohibitive? Prohibit means the tariff is kept so high that as country A keeps the tariff as high as 800%. Okay, country B cannot sell at all to country A because the tariff is so high, 800%, and that is a too high tariff so that no imports will take place. Okay, and the next one is, I think we have almost finished. There is a printing mistake in page 431. It is not important subsidies, it is import subsidies. Okay, import subsidy. What is a subsidy? So far, we have been talking about, okay, as the border crosses, okay, the border crosses, the price rises. Something that comes for 60 rupees, 20 rupees tariff, when it is inside, it becomes 80 rupees. I hope you are with me. And that is tariff positive. Sometimes this country might give subsidies for import. Oh, subsidies, very rare word. Import subsidies. This country is very badly in need of a particular good. Say for example, India imports cashew nuts. Not cashew nuts, raw cashew. Because there is a lot of, laborers involved in cashew processing. And so we want it, right? We want to encourage, especially in Kerala and Karnataka. We want to encourage these cashew industries to import raw cashew from Africa and other countries. Otherwise, what will happen? These women, mostly women, poor women who are engaged in cashew industry will lose their employment. Okay. So, 1 ton of cashew, 3,000 rupees. You buy for 3,000 rupees, government will give you 500 rupees so that your cost is only 2,500. I hope you know a subsidy is part of cost of production met by the government and the rest you pay. So 500 rupees government will pay, 200 rupees the producers, cashew business big shots will pay. And this is a negative tariff, okay? Negative import tariff, right? And that is, we are learning theory, just understand, you should be able to save with using numbers, okay? Right. That is the importers get money. So far the importers were paying what? Paying money to the government. Now it is a subsidy, the importers are getting money, okay? Right. Now we go to the next portion. This is very, very, very important, okay? Understanding it is very important. I think you have dumping, anti-dumping duty and all those things you do. And anti-dumping duty I think you do in final papers. But you should know what is the rationale behind it, okay? So we go to the next topic, that is distortion. I have said a new word now, distortion. What is the meaning? Distortion comes from the word distort, which is actually twist something, isn't it? Twist. And in the media, in your place, I do not know. In our place, in vernacular media and also all India media, definitely it is. In media, they give you usually a distorted version, a twisted version of a matter. If a political killing takes place, they'll give you a distorted version. So like that, it is then police usually gives a distorted version, or people give a distorted version against police. Okay, all these political parties give a distorted version of a policy taken by the ruling government. I hope it is clear. And distortion is a twisting. And what will be distortion in trade? Distortion in trade is normally markets should decide the price and quantity. Here it is price and here it is quantity. Clear? So price will decide production or exchange or whatever it is. Okay. Because of market imperfection, I know market imperfection, you remember point number 1 in market failure. Because of market imperfection, sometimes the price and quantities are different from what the market will decide. Okay, the price and quantities should be this, but it is different. P1 instead of P. Quantity should be this, but that is market failure itself, okay? But quantity will be less than this. Market failure, right? And this is a market imperfection. And this is a distortion in the market. And I am introducing this theory of distortion, market distortion, or the word distortion in economics. Okay, to trade distortion. What is trade distortion? It may not be given in your book, please note it down. A trade distortion is a policy that alters trade, that is the amount traded and the price up and down. Usually the amount traded, okay. The amount traded should be this. But because of some distortion, the amount traded is either more or less. Okay, either greater or less, we call it a trade distortion. That is, it is some unfair practice. Some unfair practice, we are going to the unfair practices now. Because of some unfair practice, we can export more. Because of some unfair, it is not criminal practice, but some type of, manipulation. Because of some type of manipulation, I can export more. Okay, I can export more than some other country. Because of some subsidy that I give, okay, we go to trade distortion now. I hope it is. Because of some unfair thing that I do here, I will make my products cheaper than what it actually is. For example, my product prices may be 50 rupees. My manufacturing cost is 50 rupees. Okay, I give a subsidy of 10 rupees. Government gives a subsidy of 10 rupees. Then the product price is only 40 rupees. So my product price is 40 rupees and I take it to another country and sell it for 40 rupees. Actually, this is unfair practice. I am artificially reducing the price by a subsidy of 10 rupees. I hope it is clear. Okay. And so this is the type of unfair practice I said. Right. So now we go to the next section, that is tariff as a response to trade distortion. When this type of activities take place and they bring in exports at a lower price, actually exports should come at 50 rupees. Isn't it? Simple. It won't come at 50 rupees because there are many other taxes and tariffs. But normally the cost should be 50, but they are bringing at 40, right? Artificially subsidizing the product and increasing the demand. Then what will this country do? It will have increased demand, isn't it? Because the price is lower, but this price is artificially reduced. Okay, we call it trigger price mechanism. That is, then what can this country do? Come on, what is wrong with this country then? The thing comes at 40 rupees. Domestic price of the same good is 60 rupees. All people will go run for this 40 rupees good. Suppose it is mobile phone, right? We will not be able to sell our product. Everybody will go and buy this product, which is very unfair, okay? And so, what will this country do? When you bring your goods with 40 rupees, on the boundary, I will charge you, come on, another 20 rupees or 25 rupees. Clear? Then the price here becomes 60. Unfair practice, I have compensated. This is called a trigger price mechanism. Trigger price mechanism. There is a history behind this word, but we don't have much time to discuss the history. Now, a tariff response. A tariff response. This is the tariff response to unfair or trade distortion. Here trade is distorted by artificially reducing the price. They have brought the commodity and sold it, increasing the demand in this country. Okay, and they have undercut the domestic industry. Okay, undercut the domestic industry. So if the price is distorted like that, we go for an action known as anti-dumping duty. Anti-dumping duty. Before we go to anti-dumping, let us go to, I think we have done an international price discrimination. We have done foundation. But for those who have not done foundation, let us first of all explain what is dumping. Country A sells sugar in its domestic territory for 35 rupees. When it comes to international trade, they sell it for 25 rupees. These are only examples. Numbers, don't believe these numbers. Okay, they sell it for 25 rupees. So what is dumping? Selling at a higher price in the domestic market because A's people, they cannot go to another country and buy sugar, isn't it? They have to buy sugar here, okay? And so, sell sugar at 35, you go to Dubai market, you go to all international market, okay? You go to all different EU or US market, sell it for 25. Because sugar will come from different countries here, isn't it? And if you want to be competitive and be selling your product, you have to compete in the international market and keep the prices lower. Right? And this is one question of dumping. Okay, one explanation of dumping. That is selling. It is international price discrimination. Second thing, your cost of production of sugar is 32 rupees. Your average cost of production per kilogram of sugar is 32 rupees. But you sell here at 25 rupees. Are you with me? Right? You sell less than your cost of production. You will ask me, how will you sell less than your cost of production? That is, if you want, here you are selling at 35, you of course get profit here and here. Okay, but you will have excess sugar. If you keep all the excess sugar here, the price of sugar will come down to 22 rupees here. So better you offload the sugar at a lower price to another place. Okay, economics is different from your explicit cost and all that because this is decision making as to what to do under given circumstances. Okay, and so, right, this is dumping. So dumping is selling at different prices in the domestic and international market, selling at a price lower than cost of production in the international market and distorting the prices in the international market. Dumping can be of different types given in your book. Persistent, one country is usually doing it. Seasonal, when sugar production is high during a particular sugar crushing season. Okay, we don't want the prices of sugar to come down, so we dump. Intermittent, okay, sometimes they do that. Whenever there is a distress, they want foreign exchange or something, there is a distress, they want it. Cyclical, That is, they have very high activity, high production, sell it. Or it can be as a predatory pricing practice. What is a predatory pricing practice? Who's a predator? Trying to catch your, catch your food, another animal for food, right? So, predatory pricing practice so that no sugar industry will develop in another country. They will keep on buying sugar from us, okay? And remember, so many questions I have covered. If you are a consumer in country B, this is country A's business, okay? You are a consumer in country B, come on, you are happy. Why are you happy? Because you get sugar for 25 rupees. You are willing to pay 35 rupees, but you get for 25 rupees, what do you call it? Consumer surplus. Okay. You're happy because you get at a lower price than what you are. What about domestic industry? Domestic industry will start crying here, isn't it? Domestic sugar industry is very unhappy. Why are they unhappy? They cannot sell their sugar because their sugar will be priced at actually their cost of production is 30 rupees. They have to sell at least for 32 rupees in country B. But see, this country is offloaded in sugar for 25 rupees. These people, these producers are now very unhappy. Okay, producers are unhappy. Consumers are happy. Okay, there are examples. Every day you open the newspaper. Okay, this is a whole area of, right? For chartered accountancy, there is a post-qualification course itself in this. That is chartered accountants, specializing in this type of policy formulation like that. Caustic soda from China. Okay, recent examples in India. Caustic soda from China, Korea, People's Republic of China and Korea. Steel products from 7 countries. That is an opposite story. Very recently we read in the newspaper, we were putting anti-dumping duties on steel products. Then the big shot steel producers like Jindal complaining, right? Don't put anti-dumping duty, right? Okay, we want steel. Like that, negotiations are also going on. Like we have put anti-dumping duty very recently on decorative papers from China because then hydrofluorocarbon, there are some chemicals from China. Lots of examples. Sodium nitrate, sulfuric acid, okay, all these are examples. Now, when you learn dumping, once a question was asked, dumping margin, that is not given in your book, but one question was asked about dumping margin. What is this dumping margin? A country sells sugar at 35 domestically and comes and sells in your place 25. Okay. So what is the normal value here? Please note this normal value is calculated using many principles, but for ease I am saying this is the normal value in their place. Okay, and they are selling it at 25. So I want to put a duty. What should be the dumping margin? How much should be added to 25 rupees? Because they are selling it at 25 rupees, hurting my domestic sugar industry. So at what price should I sell? Okay. The difference between normal value and the dumped value is 10 rupees. So when it comes to India or when it comes to the importing country, charge 10 rupees. Rupees 10. So 25 plus 10, the price now becomes 35 rupees. And this 10 is the dumping margin. That is equal to the difference between import price and normal value of the product in the exporting country. Okay, I hope you remember with these numbers. 25 plus 10, they are trying to sell for 25. now charge 10 more, and that is the anti-dumping. When it is anti-dumping duty, no? Duty is charged, the price becomes more or less equal to domestic. I hope it is clear. And the next one is countervailing duties. That also is a response to such unfair trading practices. I think I have already explained that countervailing duties when I explained this. That is, a country produces sugar for 40 rupees, subsidy of 10 rupees or tax concession of 10 rupees, making the cost to 30 rupees. And this guy taking the sugar to another country and selling it for 30 rupees. Unfair, isn't it? To offset this artificial, what is this artificial? It is because of the concessions given by this country. It is not due to market in the country decided 40 rupees. There should be some importance to the market, isn't it? Cost of production, isn't it? And so this is unfair trade practice. They are able to sell at 30 rupees. Then what do? You put a CVD, countervailing duty. I think you are used to this term, countervailing duty, because you are studying so much of tax, isn't it? And that is the purpose of countervailing duty. Export subsidies, tax concessions offered by the governments in the exporting country, making it cheaper in the importing country, making it difficult for the importing country industry to survive. And that is a countervailing duty. Don't think India is innocent. Okay, we have an MEIS scheme, Merchandise Export from India scheme. MEIS, Merchandise Export from India scheme. Okay, this is so much vast topic. Each one is some 13-40 pages, right? You know what we do under this? We will reward the entrepreneurs or the exporters, okay, right, to compensate for the inefficiencies due to infrastructural constraints, okay. So because infrastructure is not good, you cannot work properly, and your cost increases, we will give you some money. Merchandise exports from India scheme. And people started going to WTO and said, okay, this is very bad that India is doing it. And so that is, the discussion is still going on. So this time they have capped, okay, maximum payable under MEIS is very recently 2 crores per exporter. Okay, they have capped it per exporter 2 crore. So every country does this. I will also do that. If you are an exporter, you will also do that. Because we are not charitable organizations, we are profit oriented. And discussions are going on in the Ministry of Commerce to scrap. We have to scrap it because it is unauthorized. Okay, it is interference with the market. It is unfair. And so we are going to change it and give it another, another name for the old wine in the new bottle. It is called, I forgot some name. That is remission of duties and taxes or something like that. That will be there from next year onwards. So it is coming in another, that is in another color. That is all. Anyway, countries will definitely give concessions for exporters, and this is unfair, and the other countries can respond. That is why the title is, come on, Tariffs as a Response. Tariffs as a Response. Now that you have done tariff, you can understand what is the effect of tariff. You have done comparative advantage theory. You have done, the benefits of trade. Okay. Tariff is not good. We have to be standing dispassionately, without any subjective thinking, without any soft corner for our country. Let us learn, come on. Right. There are impact for the exporting country, impact for the importing country. And a tariff is always, I am always drawing India because we can easily take a tariff is an obstacle. Okay, this is tariff. A tariff is an obstacle to exports. Okay, an obstacle to trade. And so naturally whenever there is tariff, the volume of international trade will fall. The volume of imports will fall. This trade market access, that is entry into our market access. For India, we may be trying to enter another market, our market access is reduced. Okay, it makes imported goods more expensive. It discourages, whenever there is tariff, we have a right to consume, isn't it? Domestic consumers, that is the way you have to remember, isn't it? I have worked, I have got money, then I cannot consume at the lowest possible price. That is unfair to a consumer, right? And so it is disadvantageous to the domestic consumers because domestic consumers have to pay high price. Consumer surplus is lost. You remember in dumping, consumers are happy. So when import duties are there, consumers are unhappy. They are paying more. Their consumer surplus reduces because they are paying high prices. Now consumers consume less quantity because tariff is there, price is high. They consume less quantity. And what will they do? Everything is like a story, okay? Because foreign goods are costly, okay? For example, India, they will go for domestic goods. Here in this case, they will go for Indian goods. Pakistanis will go for domestic substitutes. That is what is produced in the country. And producers are happy. Producers are always happy with tariff because that is protection for them. So domestic industry is protected, domestic industry is happy, and domestic demand is more, price will rise, production will rise, profit will rise, okay? Because there is no competition, Indian industries can charge higher prices because no more. You don't have to be afraid of competition, right? Okay, because foreign competition has reduced, they can get, a lot of profit and price increase. Price increase means more investment will come, isn't it? From inside the country, more investment will come. More investment is, more profit, more output, okay? More employment. See the story? Right. Okay. Now, trade distortion, this is the effect on domestic industry, right? It is disregarding comparative advantage. For example, country B will produce something for 5 rupees and sell it to me. I can get it for 5 rupees. But I am putting a tariff of another 5 rupees, making it 10 rupees when it comes here. Okay? That is, that is discouraging efficient production, isn't it? They have comparative advantage. B has comparative advantage. It can produce at 5. If A has no comparative advantage, it can produce only at 10. When you can get for 5 rupees, you are producing and selling in the domestic market. That is distortion. Prevent countries from enjoying the advantage of comparative advantage, from the happiness of comparative advantage. So we are actually discouraging efficient production. These people are efficient. By stopping them selling in our country, we are discouraging efficient production and encouraging inefficient production. Did you ever think of these consequences? You have to be thinking logically. dispassionately, objectively, without any bias. When we do this, when we make in India at 10 rupees, I told you no, Atmanirbhar, making India at 10 rupees, when you can actually buy it for 5 rupees. Okay, think of the economic rationale. That is the difference, right? Okay, so that takes us to what is the impact on government? Government is happy because government revenue will increase whenever there is revenue. Okay, but please remember, with the WTO, tariff cannot be increased because we are all gone and signed the WTO, isn't it? That is why when people go for negotiation, we have to be very, very careful, because when you sign something, it is binding on you. So you can't increase the tariff. There are restrictions. It is down how much you can charge. Otherwise, there is a dispute settlement body to which the other countries will go. All that we are going to learn. I told you this is only general knowledge that we are going to study in this chapter. And with us, tariff is over. We are very slow. Tariff is over. Now we go to the next step. That is not price related. That is non-tariff measure. Non-tariff measure. Before I go to that, let me see if the questions have come. Your questions and your doubts. Okay. Yes, there are some doubts. I would like to MCQ. Okay. One MCQ 4.20 point B is wrong, right? I can settle that tomorrow because now it is time consuming. Okay. First question, who is that? Come on. Indu Pradeep. I can't say, I'm sorry. I'll see your name. No name is given. Location or nothing is given. Okay, I will clarify it. I think it is Indu Pradeep Kumar, right? I will clarify it because I need to check the book, right? That means that protecting domestic manufacturers is a bad policy from the point of view of international trade. Not always. But if domestic, if you lived before 1991, we lived before that, okay? You know, whenever there is no competition, there is inefficiency. Why do we enjoy good quality commodities and services? I will tell you my personal example, waiting 8 years for a telephone connection. Electricity connection, you have to wait so many years. Okay, the only cars available in the market were only Hindustan's Ambassador car, then a Premier Fiat car and a Herald car. Dilapidated. You will never see such cars on the road now. You have to protect domestic industries to the extent that they are efficient. If they are inefficient, you know, domestic consumers are suffering. Economics goes with incentives, always incentives. If I work hard and I get all poor quality commodities to purchase, that is unfair to the consumers also. It is not only producers who have to live, it is consumers also have to benefit, isn't it? So protecting is good, but don't protect inefficient. Protection should not be for inefficiency, for promoting inefficiency. All these subsidies, etc., are making people inefficient, is what theory says. Okay, not my opinion. Then Karan from Delhi is asking, if these tariff is there, then how dumping goods can take place? Yes, people are very smart. People, including India, right? Every country will find one way or the other to enter into the other's market. How can you enter into the other's market? Only by other things, quality remaining the same, only by price competitiveness, isn't it? Price competitive you have to be. So you will, I will do unfair practice, all of us will do unfair practice, and dumping is a common practice. If you are interested, just to go to Ministry of Commerce, anti-dumping policies, anti-dumping investigations initiated by India and against India. You will see a number of anti-dumping is taking place. Okay, every now and then you will see anti-dumping duty. That is example of anti-dumping. Okay, anti-dumping dumping really takes place because people would like to enter another's market at any cost. Next question is from Lakshay. Okay, Lakshay UP, right? If tariff rates are high, then it may form a not black, you are right, very, very right. If tariff is very high, gold tariffs are very high, what do people do? Smuggle it. You don't have to pay tax. Okay. Kerala is very famous for gold smuggling. Now a huge issue is taking place, smuggling through strategic lines, that is official lines. And so definitely you are correct. It will lead to smuggling and black marketing. Okay. Tariff on goods and services. Then what about resources? The same. Yes, please remember this is also Hindu from Kerala. Hindu Pradeep. Yes. Resources. We are going to the last unit, that is international capital movement. Please remember, we want resources. We are eager to get resources. So at any time, we will appreciate investments to come, right? So there is nothing like dumping of money into our country. That is there in the last unit, we will learn it. Okay? Right. GST started on import of services. No, GST is domestic. Goods and services tax is domestic tax. Tariff is on goods that are coming from other countries. Okay, I hope it is clear. That is, GST is a domestic tax. Earlier it was sales tax, excise duty and so on, different taxes. Now it is only GST, but tariff is customs duty when the commodities or whatever services, whatever is crossing the border and entering the customs territory of another country. Next question is exporting. Okay, this is from Priya is asking, exporting country will also provide some benefits to firm, so it will already reduce its cost, so even importing country impose tax. Yes, exporting country will provide some benefits. Your observation is correct. Exporting country can give some benefits is okay, but trade distorting benefits. A benefit like this, a substantial part of cost is reduced by giving a subsidy. It is unfair. So, some benefits you may give. Every country will give exporting people benefits. But such benefits should not be artificially distorting the trade by playing on, cost which does not really represent cost. For example, for producing 1 meter of cloth, my cost is 40 rupees. Government gives me a subsidy of 20 rupees. I can sell this cloth for 20 rupees abroad. This is very unfair, isn't it? That is actually affecting the importing country's cloth industry. This is artificially reducing the cost by taking money from government. Okay, so no trade, that is in WTO, these words are very important. Trade distorting subsidy. Ordinary subsidies are okay. If people have nothing to eat, okay, give some income support to them, there is nothing wrong. COVID is there, give some money to them, there is nothing wrong. But with the intention of distorting the trade, artificially making our goods cheaper in another market, that is an unfair practice. Dumping is an unfair practice. Every country does this. You have to prove. Proving itself is very difficult. 3-4 years it will take. Okay. Even importing country imposed tax, price will not be affected much. Yes, that is our objective. What is the objective of a tariff? change the relative prices. Make the imported commodities prices at least equal to our prices or a little more than our prices, because we want our domestic industries to prosper, isn't it? It's only fair, isn't it? We want our domestic industries to prosper. Next question is, if we are restraining foreign market in our country, I mean foreign goods, I think you meant, that is in the, okay. If we are restraining foreign market in our country, that is foreign goods in our country, what is the use of international trade? Okay. Definitely international trade will not stop. Right. International trade will take place. But unfair international trade should not take place. That is the argument. Okay. So we allow foreign goods. So much of import is taking place in our country. We allow the foreign goods to come to our country. Everything is there. But unfairly, they should not come and distort our market. That is what we are saying. Okay. Fairly they can come. At fair prices, let them come. And let them come as ensure economic growth. But economic growth can also be made possible by growth of domestic industries, domestic agriculture, domestic trade, domestic infrastructure. All these are economic growth. Growth is possible by, by focusing on domestic industries also. I hope it is clear for you. So we are not saying no foreign goods shouldn't come at all. We are saying foreign goods and services should not be coming unfairly. I'll tell you one example. Reliance Jio is doing very good now. Suppose a foreign, for AT&T, for example, American giant, is coming to the Indian mobile telephony market and selling, mobile phone services at a very low price. Okay, you don't pay anything, you simply use the mobile. What will happen to the Reliance Jio over here? What will happen to the VI, Vodafone, Idea combined? They will disappear from the market. What will happen to BSNL? They're then gone forever then, isn't it? Right. So we don't want unfair trade practice, because nobody can give anything free. Even if AT&T comes, that is from US comes, they have to give it at a price, isn't it? And so people should not be distorting trade is what I said. Okay, that is the principle. This quota is fixed per firm or in total, then how much each can put. Yeah, that is, you can go to Ministry of Commerce website, then you will find quotas are fixed. There should be around 464 entries, I think. I was checking some few years back. Then itself there are 464 type of quotas. So everything works in huge. Who can import? Yes, we are going to that in the, quotas fixed. Who will get the quota? Quota licenses are auctioned, right? Quota licenses are held by some people. We are going to that in the next half an hour. Then both USA and China are members of WTO, not Health Organization. Then how can they impose it? Yes, that is a big fat question that we are trying to answer. What did Trump say? Come on, when you are big powers, that is, have you heard about the saying that in the forest all animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others. You know about veto power in UN. Why veto power for some countries? Some animals are always more equal than others, and naturally they are big market powers. That is, China is a big, I will not say market power, because China lost very recently. They are declared as not a market economy, but US is a huge market economy. They are powerful, they have money, and so they can show their might. They don't have to obey the WTO rules. Who is there to question them? That is their attitude. Okay, so everybody would try to protect their interest. And that is what is happening, this trade war. Everybody is getting affected by the trade war. And India is also trying our might, showing our might, isn't it? We have banned the foreign, so many commodities coming from China. We have banned so many applications coming from China. That is also not a WTO compliant. Okay, we are doing that. So every country does that. Whoever feels that we are powerful in the international arena, they will do that. And this happens in our day-to-day life. Some people are more powerful, they do whatever they can. Some people are less powerful, they simply lie down and obey, isn't it? That is all. Now that takes us to, should we have a break? No, not me. That takes, I'll finish another 5 to 8 minutes and then give a 2 minute or 3 minute break. We go to non-tariff because we are only halfway through. We are much lagging today. Non-tariff measure is anything other than ordinary tariff. Tariff is visible. 15% is 15%. 20% is 20%. Visible, predictable, open. There is no secret in that. But non-tariff measures are, some are allowed, some are not allowed. So any measure other than ordinary customs tariff is a non-tariff measure. NTM, non-tariff measure. Okay, definitely any measure which, there is an UNCTAD definition, 2010 definition given in your book. That is, any measure, anything that can have an economic effect. That can have an economic effect. How? By changing the quantities traded. Okay, change in quantity traded, change in price of goods that are traded, or change in both. Then it is a non-tariff measure. So just like a tariff measure, non-tariff measure also has effect of changing anything. So it is so vast, sometimes it is so invisible, you don't even understand that it is a trade measure. Okay, so non-tariff measure is what we are going to learn next. So these are hidden and invisible. Many of the time, you know, these policies are so, tacit, secret. Okay, they are so done so secretly, and it is very difficult to even understand. That is why people should learn economics. Okay, that will make you sharp. When somebody says something, this is to cheat me, right? Don't believe people is the principle, most of people like economics people like us follow. Because you do it for your self-interest. I stand to protect my self-interest. And sometimes the self-interest might conflict, isn't it? So, invisible measures that interfere with the trade. So, anything that interferes with the trade. So, these measures, all countries will resort to non-tariff measure. Okay, because there are limitations of tariff after WTO. You just cannot play with the tariff. Otherwise, you should be Donald Trump or you should be, somebody greater than him. Only then you can play with tariff. Okay, right. So, all measures that alter the conditions of trade, please learn the same words, that alter the conditions of trade. Okay, including, okay, right, including policies that restrict trade, that facilitate trade. Either way, okay, interfering with the trade. How do you interfere with trade? Either by enhancing trade, trading more than what is actually permitted by, actually determined by the market. Okay, restricting trade. Okay, that is also not good. Then what is the best? What is best to prevail? Not that it is enhanced artificially, it is restrained artificially. Any interference is a non-tariff measure. I hope you got it. Any interference in the market, in the trade. Now I need to draw a distinction between non-tariff barrier. That is something we always hear, isn't it? Non-tariff barrier and non-tariff measure. Okay, right from these words you may recognize a non-tariff barrier is something more crooked than a non-tariff measure. I will tell you with a very simple example. For example, I may say, okay, I may set a standard. In non-tariff measure, we are going to non-tariff measure, we are permitted to have, product standards. For example, milk powder, right? I put, for example, I am country A. I put certain standards of milk powder that I will be buying, okay? I say milk powder should be like this, should be like that, okay? It should be clean, it should contain particles, so should not contain particles of this much, it should be from organically fed cows. No, it should be so and so. There are some Orders Alimentarius standards. Did I say something difficult? That is, international food standards are there. I should not think that my people are babies, isn't it? My people have also some toleration limit for their stomach. So, I should be accepting the international standards, right? And then nothing wrong. But suppose I say that the milk powder that I buy should be okay under 160 parameters. Your country has to satisfy 160 parameters. It should be from cows which are standing only. It should be from cows which are eating grass only. It should be some from, done from by people. Milking should be done by people who are vegetarians. You can say hundreds of conditions, isn't it? Then what is my... Will anybody be able to satisfy these 160 parameters while producing milk powder? Not possible. So, I can always say I don't want your milk powder. So, I am using these standards as a barrier. Okay. I am saying extreme standards so that the milk powder produced in my country will not enter my country. So that our milk powder manufacturers are not exposed to competition. Then it is a non-tariff barrier. Okay, non-tariff measures are some mandatory requirements. For example, organic food. I can say, okay, your food should be organic. And the meat exported should not contain antibiotic residues. E. coli content in your vegetable should be only this much for the health and welfare of my people. But I should not be saying extreme standards. Then each bottle of milk powder, each tin of milk powder should be tested. There was an EU case like that, Each packet of shrimp should be tested. That goes from India should be tested if European Union is going to buy. That is a non-tariff measure because it will increase the cost. And Indian shrimp will not enter the European Union. We can study this 1 year if we keep on discussing like this. And so, non-tariff measures are, come on, learn from your book, requirements, rules, regulations which are legally set. Not illegal, okay. Both these countries agree. Okay, but sometimes these non-tariff measures are made so stringent, like milk powder to satisfy 160 criteria. Then it becomes a barrier. Then I am saying, okay, I don't want your milk powder. Don't bring your milk powder, because it is impossible for not only you, anybody in the entire world to satisfy all the 160 criteria. I hope it is clear the difference between non-tariff. So non-tariff barrier is a subset. You have studied subset theory, isn't it? Non-tariff barrier is a subset of non-tariff measure. Then what is the intention of non-tariff barrier? Protection. Protect my domestic industry from competition. Right? Discriminatory. Bad intent. Negative impact on trade. I want to restrict the trade. But non-tariff measure is a neutral concept. Okay, it is a neutral concept, because I want my children, I want my country's children not to be affected by contaminants in the milk powder. Normal, natural, isn't it? Right. Now you may take a break of 3 or 4 minutes, because we will be continuing up to 8:45 if permitted. I hope. Okay, I hope it is so. Take a break some 2-3 minutes. 3 minutes. 3 or 4 minutes. Yes. Fresh? Okay. Now, what is an NTM if you ask me, or if you ask anyone? Actually, there are thousands of it. Right? Different types of anything other than tariff is a non-tariff measure. So there are thousands of it. At different stages. Okay, from production to the final distribution to the marketing. Different stages, lots of non-tariff measures are there. So, some categorization we can make. First is import quotas. As the doubt that was asked by Indu, for example, import quotas, import prohibition, import licensing. Okay, this is taken from your book only. Imposed on imports, they are import quotas, import prohibition, and import licensing, customs procedures. You can look into your book. In the same points you will get fees, etc. Procedures and administration fees. Okay, that is the first is on import. We'll come to each. The second is on export. We don't want to encourage export for some reason. Export taxes. There is shortage in the domestic economy, and so you want to increase the price in the international market. When you look at theory, you have to look at both sides. So you put an export tax. Say for example, now onion shortage is there in India. We don't want onion to go out of our country now. Put an export tax that will make our onion costly in the international market. Like that you can reduce the export of onion. Okay. Then export subsidy. I have already discussed. So export subsidy. Export quotas. You will export only this much. Export prohibition. voluntary export restraint. These are the points given in your book. Okay, voluntary export restraint. So two categories I said, right? Two categories I said. Third category is that is internally, we call it behind the border measures. That is domestic legislation covering health, lots of conditions you keep inside the domestic territory. That is the third category. Okay, that is procedural obstacles. Okay, procedural obstacles. That is categorization, technical measure, non-technical measure. So we got first classification is technical measure. Technical. Whenever we say technical, it is product specific properties. That is the milk powder example I said is technical. Okay, product quality, technical quality. For example, when we export newsprint into my country, I want the newsprint to be made from old papers, not by cutting trees. I can keep that condition. I don't want the newsprint to use chemicals for bleaching. You have to use something else for bleaching. I can say that. So specific technical specifications, and this production process you should not use. Only this type of production process you should use, and that is relating to the product, I can say. Secondly, non-technical. What is non-technical? Trade requirements. That is all those formalities, how trade should be done. Okay, we'll go in detail. First, non-technical reasons, maybe that classification is there, you can read. Hard measures like price control. Price control is not technical. Technical is concerning the product. Okay. Then, threat measure. I am threatening. How do I threat? I will put anti-dumping duties. I will put safeguard. Safeguard will study what it is. I have, I will control certain trade related finances. All these are non-technical measures, right? As you read and understand, as you go through it, you will understand it better. So we are going to go through it. Let us first go to technical measure. That is in page number 435. I think we'll be able to go fast. This is included in WTO also, so be very, in 2 chapters these things are included, and so let us be a little more alert. So I know you are tired because you have been sitting in the class. Those who are standing and talking may not know the difficulty, right? So first let us know technical measure. That is, there are certain allowed technical measures. For example, this is permitted measure, okay? Sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Please note the spelling, okay? Sanitary and phytosanitary measure. Very simple. That is, it is a and second one is technical barriers to trade. So, I told you, hundreds of questions can be asked from this. Sanitary and phytosanitary measures. Under WTO, this SPS we call it. SPS. SPS is a huge document. I am only telling you 1 or 2 sentences about SPSs. SPS, not SPSs. SPSs is a program which I use. Okay. Now, I need to protect human life in my place. I need to protect animal life. I need to protect my plant life. I need to protect my biodiversity, because all the animals, human, plants and all in my place is, specific to this place. Why is that plants are not imported? Why is that animals are not imported? Isn't it? Why is that seeds, unless, specially licensed for agricultural purposes, are not imported? What is the reason? because we have a particular biodiversity. When that something that is not suitable for a tropical climate like ours comes, it will affect our biodiversity, isn't it? There is a disease in one part of the world. I can always say, if I import your goods, that disease will happen to my people. When there was mad cow disease in UK, we stopped importing meat altogether. Now that COVID is there, if you read newspaper every day, because of sanitary and phytosanitary conditions, we need not import anything from any other country because it will affect, virus will affect our animal life, our plant life, our human life. So that is a word used. The risk arising from additives. You are adding something, you are feeding your chicken with antibiotics. Okay, you are using contaminants. Right? Contaminants, pesticides, particle per million is much more in your wheat, and we don't want our people to be put into trouble. There are toxins in your vegetable. That is a major case with Indian vegetable, isn't it? There are pesticides, toxins, and we want to protect our people. Naturally, there are permitted levels of everything. If another country is going beyond that, I have every right not to import it. That is for my people. I mean, health, welfare of my people, my animals. Suppose I am importing dog food, and this dog food consists of something that's not good for Indian dogs. Okay, I cannot import it. Right. Then the second one is technical barriers to trade. Technical barriers to trade are standard-based measure. A standard-based measure. This is standard-based measure to protect consumer and to preserve. That is, you say certain mandatory standards. Mandatory standards. For example, technical regulations. Handloom should be 100% cotton. The tablecloth that you export from here should be 100% cloth. Then the color that is used should be so, should not contain chemicals, should be organic colors. I can prescribe the standards, okay? I can prescribe the standards. Child labor should not be used, right? That is why Kashmiri carpet industry, because child labor is used. Foreign countries will say we don't want your carpet because child labor is used. Lots of condition about processes, products, etc. And it is not only conditions. There will be many conditions people prescribe. It is not only conditions, but conformity. There are some conditions, say for example 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And do you conform to this? What is the meaning of conform? Did you satisfy this condition? And so there can be checking, okay, conformity assessment we call it. Checking whether these are satisfied, okay. Checking whether these are satisfied, that whether you conform to the standards which we prescribed. Did you use artificial chemicals for coloring the handloom clothing which we are buying for our children? I have to make sure, isn't it? So there is many checking mechanisms from agents or directly people who are set for that purpose. And this conformity assessment also come under technical barriers to trade. Some examples are food laws. For example, we eat so and so. Chinese people eat different things. We eat different things. For example, in India, many types of fat, animal fat. Because of our religious beliefs, many types of animal fat should not be brought here, imported into our country, isn't it? So food laws. What are the laws we are implementing? Quality standards. What is the quality of the good that you are? For example, if we are buying A4 papers, its thickness should be this much, its color should be this much, it's all those specifications. Yeah? Okay. Industrial standards. By industrial standards, we mean screws. The screws that we buy should be of particular quality, particular size, like that. Organic certification, you already know, certified organic, eco-labeling, then marketing requirements, labeling requirements. You know what is labeling requirement? For every packet, you know, you will see what is the contents. Have you used, especially in food, you know, what is or medicine, what is the contents of this? Do you use saccharine instead of sugar? Do you use some sugar substitute? Do you use a preservative? Is it a permitted color that you use? Everything should be written, isn't it? All these are examples of product standards. Okay, that takes us to non-technical measures. So first one was technical measure. These are all technical barriers to trade, sanitary and phytosanitary. So this classification always remember. Then the third one is non-technical. It is not related to the product. It is related to the trade requirement. Okay. So product part is technical part. Now we go to trade requirement. Okay. That is where hard measures, threat measures, etc. in the previous page. Without going into that, non-technical measures are import quotas. You already know what is an import quota. You will import only 5,000 cars. That is import quota. And for the doubt that is asked, you know, import licenses are issued to say A, B, C, D and E. Only 5 people in India. I'm only saying an example. Okay. Certain physical amount of a commodity be imported. Anything. Right. Then there is a binding quota, non-binding quota. Sometimes, you know, the free market. Suppose you leave the car to the free market. Okay. The free market will import only 3,000 because there are only 3,000 people who can buy this Range Rover car from that's coming from outside, or the BMW bike I said about it. I don't know much bigger bike than that. Okay, all these bikes, only 3,000 bikes will be demanded, or 3,000 cars will be demanded, but the quota is 5,000. This is not a binding quota because actual demand is less than quota demand. But sometimes so many people want the cars, but the maximum car that can be imported is 5,000. Then it is a binding quota. Market wants 10,000, but you can import only 5,000. It is a binding quota. Okay. And what is the difference between a tariff and a quota? A tariff is a tax. A quota is a quantitative restriction. There is no revenue in tariff. Question: compare quota and tariff. In tariff, we get revenue, but in quota there is no revenue. Quotas are given to A, B, C, D, A, U. Okay? It's the purpose encouraging domestic production of cars to protect our car industry, to reduce our dependency. Okay? Then there are permanent quotas are there. Different types of quotas are there. Okay? Seasonal quotas are there. For example, when onion is not available, seasonal quota. Temporary quotas are there. All that is given in your book. And what is the effect of quota? Just as I said earlier, government will get no revenue, but imported price will. These people can, only 5,000 cars are imported. 10,000 people want cars. Naturally, okay, domestic price of the imported good will rise. 10,000, but supply of cars is all okay. Now, producers of the country are better off because Lots of cars, imported cars coming, car industry in India will benefit. But you know, this A, B, C, D, E will benefit more because they will get what is known as quota rent. Because they are license holders, they will get an abnormal, they can always make an abnormal profit. They can import and sell at a higher price in India. They can import for 50 lakhs per car, sell it at 1 crore in India. 50 lakhs minus the import tariff will be their quota rent. Did I get you? Did you get it? Import for 50 lakhs, sell for 1 crore, pay 20 lakhs as tariff, because tariff will be there. 30 lakhs per car is the profit of A, B, C, D, E. Did A, B, C, D really work for that? No, it is a rent, an unearned income for which A, B, C, D did not work. So quota rent is there. Tariff rate quota we have already discussed. I think we need to wind up now. Let me check where we reached in the book. For example, import quotas. Yes, welfare effects of quota. Yeah, we are stopping at price control measures. The rest we will continue tomorrow. Okay, because this involves a lot. Oh God, three more pages to go, but that will go. But if you can read, please keep reading it. And tomorrow we will have to go to trade negotiations and finish it. But actually, since we have done all these, it should be quite these terms. It should be kind of easy tomorrow. And see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for your patient listening. It was a little tiring, I know. Okay, but take care. Thank you so much for your patient listening, and wish you happy learning. Thank you.